Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. And this is our Lucha Underground review, the season finale of Season 4. Ultima Lucha Cuatro Part 2. Holy mother of fuck. Well, as I said on live reactions the night before, one of my favorite adages in life, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And what a finish to Lucha Underground's fourth season. Oh my God, so much to talk about. I'm just going to put it as plainly as I can. This was fucking amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Especially the narrative aspects of the show, which we have consistently said on this podcast is Lucha Underground's bread and butter. But don't take my word for it. My cohort and commentary, as always, studious, breaking everything down. Ashton, I know you had a chance to really consume this again. What'd you think of it, man?
Yeah, man, I was able to go back and rewatch it. I did do a little bit of fast forwarding because I was kind of strapped for time because I overslept today and I wanted to make sure to watch all of it before I came back on here with you and get my notes. But I still managed to. I don't think I missed anything very important because the only thing that I really kind of fast forwarded through were like down moments in matches. So I was pretty good about that. That being said, though, I mean, holy shit, Lucha Underground Season 4 had everything working against it as far as budget cuts and having them change venues and losing talent because of visa bullshit and all that other garbage. And the first, I would say, dozen episodes were some of the weakest episodes Lucha Underground has ever put out, but the fucking save that they made starting in episode 13 and especially the way that they closed this season out, good Lord, we went from me feeling like it was going to go down as the weakest season of all time to me really feeling like it probably is, like, on the whole, a little bit better than season 2 to now I'm legitimately thinking this might have been the best Ultima Lucha we've ever seen.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. That's why I opened, my side of the intro with that adage, because season 4 did have its shaky moments. There's no doubt about that. I'd say as far as this podcast goes, we were probably more critical of this season than any season prior in Lucha Underground. But holy fuck, dude, that Ultima Lucha. And again, especially the final few minutes, just everything they covered at some amazing callbacks sprinkled in. I mean,
and honestly, dude, with all of the knowledge that we gained over the last few episodes, including those last 5 minutes, I might even enjoy the first dozen episodes more, knowing what I know now and kind of having that knowledge.
Absolutely. Look, I don't want to jump the gun and get all over the place. I want to try and keep it as coherent as possible. I'm saying this for me because I'm just so excited. So let us get right into our Lucha Underground review because I'm just fuck heat of the night segment. This is definitely one of those episodes where there's really nothing, I think, to nitpick, at least for me. So how do we open this baby up, partner?
Well, no, I mean, I was even going to say, though, like, even though I can't make it a heat of the night or a nitpick because it's no one's, like, fault, kind of similar to the way, like, the Vibora situation played out where he got injured, so they had to write him off.
Right.
I was absolutely, like, devastated that we lost 2 of the best big men in the temple on this show because Mill got put into a coffin and the lid closed, and Matanza got his fucking heart ripped out. So we literally lost 2 of the absolute best big men that the temple has to offer. Now, I'm hoping that we get the old Mil Muertes 1,000 deaths exception to the rule situation again, and he manages to come back. But I mean, without Katrina, the narrative kind of setup is there that might not happen. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm more confident in Mill returning. I mean, we already know the Matanza situation. No need to even.
Which, I mean, yeah, it's we knew about it and it sucks, but it's still like, damn, like that's a big loss. Like he's an OG. Like they've been building up to Matanza since very early on in the series. I still don't know if it's episode 2 or 3 of season 1 that they first kind of introduced the concept of Matanza, but still, that was the first big, like, really well built to debut in Lucha Underground, and they really built to that. They built to that thing for over a full season, and you know, the first time, and still to this day, the first time that we got to just see a glimpse of his eyes is one of the greatest markouts in the history of TWitWoW, just because like they had built him up so much, and then finally being able to see just a glimpse of the mask and the eyes of the monster Matanza Cueto was this huge moment. And then his debut in Aztec Warfare 2 was incredible. I would argue the best debut since Kane in 1996. So yeah, like Matanza is going to go down as one of the best characters in Lucha Underground history, and it's just unfortunate to me that we only had him for 4 seasons. I mean, 4 seasons seems like a lot, but I'm hoping Lucha Underground lasts at least another like 20. So probably not going to seem like all that much.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Again, Mill, I'm still holding out hope for, because I mean, God knows the twists and turns that a narrative can take, but Matanza really is a big loss, because the athlete, you know, playing him, I've called him like a once in a lifetime kind of athlete. You know, enjoy him while you have him. I've said Jeff Cobb's incredible. I do wish him the best of luck after this, but it sucks that it comes at the cost of losing the Matanza character. Although the narrative ripples of that loss do provide some intrigue in and of themselves, but we will get to that when we, you know, come upon that bridge. In the meantime, brother, let us begin with our formal review of part 2 of Ultima Lucha Cuatro. How do we open this baby up?
Well, I think the recap is actually worth talking about here because of what exactly they touched on. Because they touched on Aerostar going back in time. I think that even happened in season 2. Talking about how the tribes need to be united. It's the only way to stop what's coming. And then the dude says, what is coming? And Aerostar responds with the gods in the form of man. And then we see Antonio telling Matanza to destroy the soul of his son and become a god by breaking the key. And he does that. And then we see the Mundo wedding destruction with Johnny getting the gauntlet on a later episode. Then we see Mill destroying the Mack in the haunted house, and then Mack coming back to attack Mill and challenge him to the death match, talking about how he's not afraid of him anymore. He's not afraid of death anymore. And then we see Katrina giving Melissa the amulet, leaving Mill, and then Mill dropping her. Then we see Melissa giving Aerostar the amulet, him using the power of the amulet, or the half of the amulet that he had then, to revive Phoenix. And then talking about how when Katrina consumed his life force, she changed him. And then, you know, Melissa's like, into what? And Aerostar, something evil. Then we see Marty winning the world title and challenging Pentagon to a Settle Miedo match, and Pentagon accepting. And then we see a very recent scene with Aerostar talking to Captain Vasquez, telling her, a millennia ago, I met a girl. Then he tells her, you've done well, but it is not you who can save us. I need your half. And then we see her giving him her half of the amulet, and her hand kind of dissolving away. So it's definitely implied that she is now dead. Then we see, we get into the actual like show itself rather than just the recap. So before we talk about the first scene, did you want to say anything about the recap?
No, I just thought the recap was fantastic because it really canvassed pretty much the whole season. And definitely the most.
Yeah, I mean, it was like 80% season 4 content, but the little bit that they went back, it was a great idea to go back.
Oh, absolutely, dude. Abso-freaking-lutely. No, I really thought the recap did amazing table setting, and that's all I've got to say about it. So let's get into the meat and potatoes here.
Well, the meat and potatoes starts off with Taya Mundo looking into the mirror, doing her makeup, and you know, Johnny was in the background air guitaring with the gauntlet, which is just amazing, almost too good to be true. And then he said, this thing is going to look so sweet mounted on the wall of my dojo. And then she's just like, yeah, if you ever take it off. And it's our dojo. And it's like, totally our dojo. It's going to look even sweeter, though, when it's covered in that stupid turd monster's blood. I'm going to go warm up, maybe test this thing out again. And then you see the electricity sparks in the gauntlet and in his eyes. And then he goes, you're going to be there in case I need you, right? And then Taya says, I wouldn't miss it for the Mundo. Ah! And then he kisses her cheek and leaves. But on his way out, he says, if tonight I somehow end up being sacrificed to the gods, never to be seen again, just know that I love you. And he leaves. And then we hear Rosa's voice in the locker saying, I love you too. And then Ty just like, what the hell? And then you hear Rosa again, you're so pretty. Like, thank you. And then she's just like, I didn't even have to pull your string. And then Rosa's just like, you're the perfect woman. And then Taya like grabs Rosa and holds her close and sits down with her. And then Rosa's just like, and the perfect host. And then freaks the hell out. Rosa inhabits Taya's body, and as it fucking turns out, Rosa, the quote-unquote doll, was actually a god inhabiting the body of the doll.
First of all, I can't handle your Rosa voice, man. That's too good.
You're
Second of all,
my best friend.
Oh my god. But no, this cinematic, like, obviously, I love Johnny and Taya to death. This was great, if not heartbreaking, because we knew what was coming. Johnny being so absorbed in the gauntlet, it's perfect because whether babyface or heel, Technico or Rudo, he is a very self-absorbed man. And honestly, can you blame him? Look how beautiful that fucking stallion is. And he's like,
called him a stallion.
And
he's a like, fucking Clydesdale, right?
Yeah, you know it. And he's gonna, go work out. And Rosa, man, just such a creepy element. I mean, you don't believe us? Ask fucking Dragon Man, who's just like, no, kill it, fire. And I totally get where he's coming from. Rosa inhabiting Taya. Didn't I even say that this might happen on preview and predictions? I feel like.
Oh, dude, absolutely. You called this shit a mile away.
Yeah, like, goddamn, just a master plan. You go from the lackey and Ricky, and then you really just get to the main core of Worldwide Underground, and then you just inhabit one, which again has bigger implications later, but I really am going to try and restrain myself from jumping the gun. So yeah, just really sad if you're a fan of Worldwide Underground like me, and just very heartbreaking to watch. So Rosa's got Taya, and Johnny's none the wiser right now. So great cinematic.
Yeah, Johnny left right before it happened, so he has no clue. Oh man, what a tragic story that is.
Yeah.
But then we get into the temple and we get the welcome to Ultima Lucha Cuatro, and we get into our first match of the night, which is El Dragon Azteca Jr. versus Phoenix. 2 out of 3 falls.
Brother, what did you think about this match? I want you to walk us through your thoughts first, because I know you've taken notes.
Man, I gotta be honest with you. I was a little underwhelmed by this match. I was expecting this to be sort of like one of those match of the year contender type matches, and it really wasn't anything close to that. I mean, it was solid. I don't want to try and shit on it or anything. It was a good match, but it definitely wasn't as special as I hoped it would be. And I think that might have just been due to time constraints, because the first fall happens in 4 or 5 minutes, and then the second fall happens in another 4 or 5 minutes, and then the third fall was maybe 8-10 minutes. But really, there was no point in this match where I really got fully sucked into the action and got lost myself in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, dude, I'll just say straight away, and this will be probably the only time I jump the gun here in this commentary. There were good matches on this Ultima Lucha, maybe even 1 or 2 great matches, but I don't think this Ultima Lucha for me produced any matches where I'm like, oh, that's a match of the year contender. What I will say about this Ultima Lucha,
I mean, this was a really, really good season as far as storytelling goes, but I think you could make the argument that there were no truly amazing match of the year type matches in this entire season. I think you could make the argument that as far as match quality goes, this was the worst season of Lucha Underground, and it doesn't even really matter that much because of how good the narrative was.
Yeah, exactly. This season, and I'm glad you said that, because this season, and in particular on a more microcosmic level, this Ultima Lucha really encapsulates what we have said about the show since day one. We love the narrative even more than the in-ring product, and this is definitely a very story-driven Ultima Lucha, and I would say to its benefit at the final analysis. Because again, the matches weren't trash by any means, but they weren't oh my god, guys, you have to go and watch this right now. When you see that PWG's uploaded a highlight video or something. But as far as the story goes, it was holy shit, guys, if you missed it, it sucks for you. I'm sorry, I had to. But yeah, man, I just wanted to say that, just to get ahead of that, because I agree with you. This is a good match. But when you think about how amazing Black Phoenix has been, and what I'm hoping, how good Azteca can be, because we've seen him wrestle outside of Lucha Underground, dude's insane. It just really didn't seem to click to the level that you would think that it would. I will say the first two falls come very quickly. You were mentioning time constraints. Black Phoenix gets the first fall with the Black Fire Driver relatively quickly. It's cool to see Phoenix that dominant. You know, he, like, in the first few seconds, I feel like he pulled out his rolling cutter already. Like, Phoenix wasn't wasting time at all. Second fall, there's a bit more back and forth. And then, you know, Azteca gets his satellite DDT. Then the third fall does get a little bit of time to breathe. And I will say, like, as far as, like, moments that stuck out to me, one, the run through the table on the outside, because Antonio does come out and make it falls count anywhere. That's one big thing of note, is that, you know, when those two falls came really quickly, Antonio's like, you know, this is really personal. Let's take it to another level. So third fall will be falls count anywhere. And the victory roll bomb that Azteca would do to Black Phoenix later in the match through a table, I thought that was the finish.
Yeah,
so
that had me too.
Yeah, when Phoenix kicked out, I was like, oh, shit. I mean, before I go any further, though, Ashton, were there any other moments that, like, you wanted to spotlight that I may have glossed over? Or, like...
Oh, I mean, well, I do have notes on this, but I didn't really get, like, I didn't write down, like, every detail. I just kind of wrote down, like, the kind of flow of the match. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah, I hear you.
We started out with a big chop exchange. Phoenix kind of dominated the first fall and did get the first fall with the Black Fire Driver. And we just listening to the commentary, I found out that Phoenix is undefeated at Ultima Lucha. I didn't realize that. But I thought that was interesting. He started setting up tables and getting chairs and shit for the second fall. And then EDA Jr. ended up hitting the DDTJ to pick up the second fall. So then we get into our third fall, but then Antonio Cueto comes out, makes the third fall falls count anywhere. And we get a lot of focus put onto tables and people like trying to put each other through them. And then Phoenix ends up being the first and actually I believe the only one to go through. Oh no, he wasn't the only one, but he went through the table twice before EDA went through one. The first one was EDA doing that Hurricane Rana off the barricade up in the bleachers. Phoenix kicked out at 2 of that. And then you know what? That's right. EDA did end up getting put through 2 tables here because then Phoenix did a splash onto him through a table on the outside, but again, kicked out. Then EDA Jr. hit the victory roll bomb like you were talking about through a table in the ring. Phoenix kicked out of that. And then, like I even have in my notes here, like Phoenix is going to end up being the undefeated at WrestleMania guy in Lucha Underground, except it's Ultima Lucha instead of WrestleMania, not Mil Muertes. Which I think is like a cool like subversion of expectation because it's like the dead guy and the dead guy. Obviously, that's going to be your undefeated guy. But as it turns out, it's the dead guy's foil that ends up being undefeated at Ultima Lucha. But then EDA Jr. got a chair and wanted to use it, but Melissa tried to get him to back off. She was like, you guys are friends. It's not even really him. And then Phoenix nailed EDA Jr. with a chair. Melissa apologized, but it was too late. He spears EDA Jr. through a table and then hits the Black Fire Driver for the win. And I do find it interesting that the whole time after Melissa kind of screwed EDA Jr. over, then Puro was placing the blame squarely on her shoulders, not holding back at all, talking about how she should be ashamed of herself. She couldn't even make the announcement that Phoenix won the match. Like, they really went out of their way to shoulder the blame here on Melissa. And honestly, she wasn't making any sense because what did she say? She said, you guys are friends, but then in that same breath, she said, he's not even really him. Well, put 2 and 2 together, Melissa. If he's not even really him, then he's not El Dragon Azteca Jr.'s friend.
Yeah, and like, let's be real here. I've had fun at Azteca's expense, and believe me, that's not going to stop in this review. We'll get to that later.
Oh, yeah, and speaking of, Matt Stryker tried to, like, shift some of the blame off of Melissa and be like, well, no, isn't it really Azteca Jr.'s fault for even paying attention to her and getting distracted?
Oh, wow. That Stryker victim blaming somehow doesn't surprise me.
I know, right?
But yeah, I find it to be pretty weak sauce when you get hit in the fucking skull with a chair. And then Melissa's like, ooh, sorry. Like, I'm unconscious on the canvas. This is on you. Get speared through a table in the corner, you know, because apologies make such great armor. And then Azteca gets hit with the Black Fire Driver again for the 3 count. Yeah, man, I did like in this match. I'm glad you brought up Melissa, like you brought her into the conversation here because I did like how the camera kept cutting back to her in parts just to see like her concern. And, you know, again, I've seen storylines like similar to this before that share kinship with this story. And I was fully expecting Melissa to just turn heel. I even joked with her. Well, Ash, she is wearing a black dress. She's just matching with the aesthetic. She's vibing with it. But in the end, that isn't necessarily what happened. But she just couldn't stand to watch as Tekka, do what he was doing to Phoenix. And God damn, man, what a rough going has been for Azteca this season. Jesus Christ. You're pining for Melissa, and then when the chips are down and you're like, yeah, I'm going to win this match, and I'm going to show her that I'm a man, and we can do this, yeah. And then she's the one that distracts you. You just got friend zoned in the most excruciating way possible. Jesus,
oh my God.
A chair shot to the skull, and another black fire driver. When he wakes up, he's going to be thinking, wow, I originally wanted to come here to become world champion, and now I'm just coming here, I'm leaving here brokenhearted. God damn. So, fun match. I guess if you wanted to kind of look into the future a little bit, starting with this match, Melissa doesn't even announce. She, walks out. Phoenix is with the victory. I wonder what repercussions this is going to have in season 5, if this relationship will be touched on again.
Yeah, I almost wonder if we're gonna get alternate timeline shit in season 5 because of the big bombshell that they dropped with Aerostar at the very, 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 very end of this episode. I wonder if we're gonna get original timeline and then alternate timeline where that moment actually happened, or if that moment actually happening was in this timeline and we just didn't see any kind of repercussions throughout the season.
I'll tell you, man, you were the one that first introduced the concept of alternate timelines, with Aerostar's powers and everything.
Yeah, I thought that it would be a time loop, but it ended up being weird and different, and I'm not even complaining.
Right. I still think I would still be completely in favor of it. It's just such a bold move, but that's what Lucha Underground's known for. If they would want to do the kind of television. And I was even thinking dedicating one season to one timeline and one season to another, but you wouldn't even necessarily have to do that. If you wanted to really do experimental television and do half of your season in one timeline and then the other half on the other one, and then they converge at Ultima Lucha, I'd be cool with that. It really depends what they want to do, because I just can't imagine that very concept.
Or maybe they wouldn't even need to converge at Ultima Lucha. Maybe we see that the timeline that we're on leads to the destruction of the world, and we kind of leave that behind to only keep up with the new timeline, the alternate timeline.
And you know what, dude? I hate to be that guy, but I really do hope they play with alternate timelines, because it's smart from just a writing perspective as well. Because let's just say it like it is, dude. The status of Lucha Underground after every season is always up in the air. Yeah. God knows if they would ever get the bad news. You could just go with the timeline where everything ends badly, or not. If you wanted to end on, that's up to them. I'm just saying it's good to have alternate timelines. This way you always have a way out in case you don't get the news that you want. So I think on a multitude of levels, playing with that concept would definitely be to their benefit. And I'm glad that we're still talking about it, because I hope that they're thinking about it. Because I just can't see how Aerostar can do all of this with time, and we're not thinking about the broader repercussions as far as time itself goes.
I'm guessing, if I had to guess, I'm guessing that the scene that we saw at the very end, and I don't want to spoil it until we actually talk about it, because it's just such a bomb that I can't even actually mention it without us talking about it. And I want to wait until we get to the end to talk about it.
Absolutely, man. So you know what?
I do feel like that might have happened within this timeline, and maybe even to start season 5, we'll see the repercussions throughout season 4 of what happened at the end there that we didn't see during season 4. Kind of like how, when he went back and he revived Phoenix and brought him back, it was still the same timeline. It's just now Phoenix is alive and Katrina doesn't know about it because now she's dead, and he kept Phoenix away from Katrina. We never really saw that, but I want to see the equivalent to what Aerostar did to get Phoenix from reviving him to the current day. I want to see that unfold at the beginning of season 5 with the newly revived character that, again, we'll talk about at the end of the review.
Right.
I want to see where Aerostar kept him hidden, what Aerostar had him do, what kind of moves Aerostar planned out involving him, why he had to be the one. Because like Aerostar specifically, and we'll talk about this later too, or no, we won't even need to because this already happened. Aerostar specifically told Captain Vasquez, you're not the one that can save the world. I need it to give it to the person who can. And who he gave it to, like, apparently that's who's going to be able to save the world. And I'm just wondering what Aerostar foresees here, for real.
Yeah, I'm wondering that as well, dude. Like, what is he seeing? Like, what's his grand vision here that he's doing all of this for? And only time will tell. And again, I want to put a pin in this for now because we'll really be able to unload when we get to the final few minutes. So in the meantime, Phoenix wins, Azteca loses, and we can move on.
Yeah, and I also do want to point out that like there was a few different points throughout this match, I feel like, that Melissa was like grabbing at her stomach. Now, that might have been completely like, you know, independent, like that she might not have been instructed to do that. Might just have been because she was just coming off having a kid in real life. Or maybe they told her to do that, and we're going to get a story that she's pregnant with Demon Phoenix's baby.
That could be. That could be. Man, what a wrinkle that would be.
Right?
Good, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, especially because like that would give greater weight to her caring about what happens to him, even full well knowing that it's not him.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see. All right, what came after this?
Well, because Melissa walked out of the temple, Antonio Cueto needs to come out and let everyone know that he's been informed that she has left the building. And he kind of makes up for it immediately, though, because he says, fortunately, I've been in intense negotiations over the past months, and he's pleased to announce a blockbuster deal. This person is Lucha Libre Loyalty, or Royalty. God damn it, Loyalty. And then he says, may I present our guest ring announcer for the rest of the night, ladies and gentlemen, Shaul Guerrero.
This was, wow. This might have actually been one of my favorite moments from all of Ultima Lucha. This was great. What did you think about it, man?
I absolutely loved Shaul Guerrero as both the character, as far as like her, you know, the segment that we got here that we'll talk about more in a few minutes, and as the ring announcer. Like, I love Melissa, but Shaul brought a different kind of energy, man. I think they're both great. I wouldn't mind if they were both around in season 5.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that either. I thought she was great. I'll tell you, from what I remember very early on in NXT to now, it seems like she's matured considerably. She seems far more confident. She had presence here. I really loved her in this, man. I thought she really had a highlight segment at Ultima Lucha, and she really came off as a standout. Like, wow, I really took notice. And she was getting ready to do introductions because we were going to get into our death match, you know, Muertes versus the Mack, and Famous B interrupts.
Yep, Famous B comes out, and man, he tries to get Shaul out of the ring. By the way, before we even talk about that, I think it's really interesting to note Matt Stryker speculates that Chavo Guerrero Jr.'s appearance in Aztec Warfare might have been an olive branch to the Guerrero family and might have had something to do with Shaul being signed in the first place. I love that.
Yeah, I love that little callback to Chavo's appearance in Aztec Warfare, because that also ties up the end of, well, him and Ray in season 2 like had a loser leaves Lucha matchup. Yeah. So, you know, what's going on there? And yeah, it's just a great way to like tie everything together to me. And so, yeah, that was great that Stryker actually said that. See, that's using your commentary right there. That's good shit. Good shit.
Yeah, absolutely. So then, you know, Famous B tries to get Shaul out of the ring. He literally does the get thing that he does. But before she leaves, you know, he wants her to take his card because he doesn't know who she is or her family. And then the crowd just like, oh, and then he goes, so call that number if you want to be really famous. And, you know, then Shaul does sort of the biggest pop of the night, I feel like, for a lot of people. She does the excuse me. And then she says, I don't know who the hell you think you are, but I'm here to straighten you out, papi. The Guerreros, mi familia, we are Lucha Libre. Gory, Mundo, Hector, Chavo, Chavo Jr., my mother Vicky, my father Eddie, the Guerreros. We are Lucha Libre, but we are first and foremost warriors and ones that would kick your ass before you even know what hit you, famous bitch.
That line. That
whole promo was great. She's so good. Why did WWE ever let her go? Unless they didn't choose to. She might have just wanted out on her own. And in which case, I mean, more power to her. Hell yeah.
I mean, because, like, I don't know what the story was, but I did know that apparently, like, she did want to finish up her college education, which I find admirable. And I guess wanted to return to wrestling later. And honestly, in hindsight, that was probably the right move. Because, again, compared to when I remember her in NXT to now, like, I don't know. I get a completely different vibe from her, and I mean that as a compliment. Like, again, just somebody that's very confident.
Yeah, she's definitely got a newfound confidence for sure.
Yeah, and I really dig it, man. I gravitated to it instantly. And I got the biggest compliment I can give Shaw, which anybody that's watched this podcast long enough would really recognize. Like, that's saying a lot. Because you guys all know how much I've been loving that, Dean Ambrose has turned heel, and I thought he was going to get my line of the year when he's striking Seth Rollins. Suck it up! You asked for this! But Shaw actually bringing the competition, because when she said famous bitch, I died. I'm like, oh my God, that burn. So,
and that was such a good burn. We instantly got famous bitch chants out of the temple.
Yeah, I mean, dude, just the fire with which she said it. I'm like, oh, there's that Guerrero temper, man. That's great.
And then Famous B was just like, if you're too stupid to leave this ring on your own, I'm just gonna have to make you. And she doesn't back down, but then Chavo shows up, and he doesn't even really have to do anything. He just kind of causes a little bit of a distraction, but then Shaw is able to kick B in the gut and hits the Three Amigos on him. And then while he's down, Chavo hits the frog splash to get him the hell out of here. They made Famous B get.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I will say, and this is like, I don't even want to call it a nitpick, because it's just me, like, wanting something. Because I did like that they both kind of got on Famous B. I would have preferred either A, she'll just take care of him by herself, or even more so, I really wanted to see her gory bomb, because that was something that even back in NXT, she had a really good looking one. I remember there was a match she had in NXT, I forget who it was against, but the fans were heckling her, giving her a hard time, like, who are you, really dumping on her, all that stuff. She hit that gory bomb, the entire arena shut up. And they're like, oh, shit, that actually looked really good. So I wanted to see her do that again to Famous Bitch, but it didn't happen. And what we got, honestly, was such a special Ultima Lucha moment. Like, if they really are trying to be like, the Lucha Underground equivalent of WrestleMania, like, that's the kind of moment you really talk to your friends about the day after at school or wherever you are. Like, oh, man, can you believe Shaw Guerrero showed up and they did this great thing with the Guerreros? It was beautiful. It was tasteful. Like, They did it wonderfully. I think they did better by the Guerreros here than the WWE has most of the time since Eddie's death, if I'm truthful. Like, this was really cool. I really like this. And, just nothing but praise for everybody involved.
Yep, and once they got rid of Famous Bitch, they were able to move on, and we got our second match of the night, which was the Mack versus Mil Muertes in a death match.
What'd you think of this, man? I know Mil's your boy as well, so thoughts?
Yeah, I was so disappointed that he lost, man. I really wanted the death match to be his real specialty, where everyone just thinks it's grave consequences. But no, he lost. And not only did he lose, but he ended up getting put into the coffin and the damn lid shut. So now it seems like he might be done for good. Son of a bitch. I'm so disappointed by it. The match was okay. I really didn't think there was anything special about the match. Mack did athletic stuff, but Mack does athletic stuff in every match. Mil, I think the most impressive athletic feat that he did was a tope suicida, which is really cool to see. They had Mil brought a coffin out with him, and Matt Striker was just like, this is not grave consequences. This is just Mil trying to send a message. And Mil ended up opening the coffin and revealed that it had weapons in it, including an axe and like a couple sickles and an ice pick, which Mil uses to absolutely carve Mack's head up like a Thanksgiving turkey. Mack ended up hitting a coast to coast, which was pretty cool. He tore Mil's mask around the eye hole area. And then like Mill just randomly ended up bleeding. I'm guessing that the kendo stick shot was supposed to be what busted him open, but that seems like a really random thing to bust someone like Mill open. Mack did kick out of the flatliner. He ended up hitting Mill with multiple stunners and then slamming a brick into his face and then double flipping him off. Go to hell, you evil son of a... I don't know exactly what he said. We didn't tell him go to hell. And hit another stunner, and then that was what won the match for him. So then post-match, we saw Mack push Mill into the coffin, get some Mack-Delos to enjoy, and then, close the coffin. So
I love that that's become a thing now, Mack-Delos.
I mean, it has to be. It's so much better than Mack-Wisers. That shit doesn't make sense.
Yeah, for when you're stunning a son of a bitch. And so he put Mill down. I will say, like, Mill... Okay, I'm going to kind of work backwards here. Because if this is the end of Mill, which I refuse to believe that it is, unless we go all of Season 5 without seeing him, but if it is the end, that is another huge loss. Yeah. Like, I really don't want to concede it, because not only is...
I think the reason that I'm most surprised by it is because he's a AAA guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And, to me, if this is the end, not only do you lose a quality performer because he moves so good in there and his offense is believable and he just has a presence in there, but as a character, Mill really hasn't done anything, I guess, too significant in a while, but still, like you talk about the OGs, you always have a special connection with the OGs because, they were there when this was really starting to get built up. And to see Mill kind of go in this way, it's like, oh man, it's really heart-wrenching if that's the case. And again, I am holding out hope that it's not, but I think we should have to talk about both sides of the aisle because it very easily could be. That said, this was quite a send-off match, and even just the finish, like, way to go out of your way to protect Mill. Multiple stunners, a brick to the head, and then another stunner. Like, goddamn. So if you're going to lose your streak, that's at least the way to do it.
Oh, shit. So I'm reading on Wikipedia. It says Macias, it's Mill. He officially announced his departure from the AAA company in March of this year, ending his 12-year run with the company. It says here that the following day he explained his departure since he was very unhappy with the promotion. He claimed AAA forced him to work even with his knees injured. His defeat against La Parca in his return match was disrespectful, and apparently he signed a contract with AAA where he'd given the rights to the promotion of the nickname El Macias, Ricky Banderas. So I guess now he's with CMLL.
Oh, I see.
And he's using the name Gilbert El Boricua.
Okay. Yeah. It's just a shame if this is the end. And again, fuck you, AAA.
Dude, we knew about Mill's injuries too. And like, I was under the impression that he was choosing to keep working through it and not get surgery. But now we're finding out that fucking AAA made him. Like, yeah. God damn it. AAA is just the worst.
I kind of want AAA to die. Maybe even more so than Impact Wrestling at this point. It's kind of a toss-up.
They really are. Like, we've been saying since the first time that we watched AAA that they are the TNA of Mexico.
Yeah, and there's just more proof. That's really shitty to do to a human being, especially one who's a quality performer like, he is. I don't know how this will impact his Lucha Underground future because now that we know the ties have been severed, I don't know, that kind of chips away at my optimism a little bit, but anything can happen in the world of wrestling. But again, if this is goodbye, it was a solid send-off match. A shame that Mill couldn't really work with one of the people that like he's known to feud with, like, another Puma match or whatever. Obviously, that wasn't going to happen. But I think with what they had, good match, enjoyable match. Really, to me, and again, I go back to this, Mack should have, in my mind, in Season 5, a very brief program with Jake Strong after this win, because I still think Mill is a very credible guy. I think beating him on this stage in this kind of a match, is a big deal. So I would hope that would give Mack some momentum, especially now that Killshot is also gone. So I doubt that Mack wants to flirt with the trios titles again, unless him and Son of Havoc want to get a new running buddy or something. I don't know. But yeah, man, I really hope this isn't goodbye to Mill. I really hope not. That would suck. I mean, we're losing so many people that made this product just absolutely brilliant. And season 5, I think the biggest challenge for season 5 is going to be filling in those gaps. And I don't know how many they'll be able to fill and what they're going to fill them in with. But, you know, that's really the big question. I've got nothing else to say about it since you really covered like all the in-ring stuff and whatnot. So I want to just talk more about like the implications and just the idea that Mil might be gone, which really sucks. But yeah, solid matchup, and I'm looking forward to see what Mack does in season 5 and potentially Mil Muertes. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I really do feel like losing Mil and Katrina would be a really, like, legitimately the biggest blow to Lucha Underground that losing any talent could have been, because they were like, that's what Lucha Underground is right there, you know?
Right, absolutely, man.
Like, if we want to say like, oh, Prince Puma, he was like the, you know, the heart and soul of the product, like he was the face of Lucha Underground. Like, with him being gone, I think it felt much more safe to say that Mil was, and now he might be gone. Like, holy shit. And Katrina was like, that's like a special attraction, man. People tune in to see her similarly to the way that they used to like tune in to see fucking Sable on WWF or like the beautiful people in TNA. Like, that type of character has its place and it can be a draw.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And just to know that they're kind of losing that, you know, goddamn, like how much more? How much more are we going to have to endure? But again, we have more to talk about. So let's just keep the boat rolling. What happened after this?
Johnny Mundo versus Matanza. And this, my friend, I mean, I do have notes, but this is all you. This is, you know, Mundo is your guy. So I'm going to let you handle the bulk of the talking here.
I am going to be completely truthful with everybody because I feel like transparency is better than nothing. I did not get a chance to rewatch this match. I wish that I would have, but just judging solely on my live reactions, which I do remember, this was my match of Ultima Lucha. And here's the thing. If I'm being truthful, it wasn't even my match of Ultima Lucha because of anything like in ring necessarily. I just felt like in the match, they told an amazing story that if nothing else really plucked at my heartstrings as a Mundo fan, because they created really genuine drama, because they made it very clear with the Aerostar cinematic, Johnny, you are a mortal man. Jake Strong mauled you tonight. And if that's the best you brought against him, and that was the best you were planning to bring against Matanza, it is not going to be enough. You need this gauntlet. Like, they made that explicitly clear. So even putting aside the fact that Johnny was getting attached to it, as we've seen happen, you know, we knew that Johnny needed it to survive. So in the opening moments, when he throttles Matanza by the throat and throws him down, which I got more goosebumps from that than Hulk Hogan ever exhibiting his 24-inch pythons, for the record. I thought that was fucking amazing to start. But then Matanza having the intelligence to take the gauntlet off, what you set in place to me is an amazing story of, oh shit, Johnny lost his one edge. Can he outsmart the monster? Can he live, given the precedent that's been established throughout this feud, all of Johnny's friends being lost, Taya almost being sacrificed? You know, can Johnny stand up to it? And what ensued was just a great match predicated on the story of survival, because every time Johnny tried going for the gauntlet or every time he was on offense, my heart was in my throat thinking, oh my God, you know, is he going to get caught or whatever? Now, keep in mind, Lucha Underground got me to do all of this, since we kind of jumped the gun earlier in the review talking about one part of the final few minutes. I feel comfortable talking about this. We knew what was happening with Jeff Cobb. And again, we already did kind of talk about what happened to Matanza ultimately. But even knowing what happened with Jeff Cobb and what was going to happen, I still had my belief suspended. Like, oh man, are we sure that, you know, maybe Johnny wouldn't get sacrificed and they'd find another way to get rid of Matanza? Like, they really planted the doubt in my head and they worked it over maliciously for several minutes. But that's what made the hope spot so good, especially when they're really fighting out among the believers, because Matanza threw the gauntlet up even higher and Johnny starts using his parkour, you know, to get to it. I thought that was a great moment as well. And really, to me, one of the highlights of this match, just again, focusing more on the story, was Johnny getting, it wasn't necessarily a choke slam, but pretty much like thrown through the roof of the building, which we've seen that happen seemingly like once a season. And every season, like, the person doesn't emerge, you know, because I was thrown through a fucking building. But it makes for a great visual of the doors opening when Matanza's descending the steps. looking to pursue Johnny, trying to find him. And the door opens, and Mundo does his pose with the gauntlet in hand. And Matanza just looking absolutely mortified because he knows, like other times when I've put people through buildings, they stay down. And this guy hasn't stayed down. What the fuck else can I do? Then obviously after that, he does get Wrath of the Gods at one point. He kicks out. That was another great moment. I popped for it. Really, yeah, and then Johnny just starts coming back with the body blows with the gauntlet. And he wins with pretty much like a top rope God punch right to the face. I do wish he would have gotten a supercharged End of the World with the gauntlet on. But again, pickiest of nits.
You know what, though? I actually like the way that he won the match because, like, the End of the World, I don't think would have been that much more powerful with just wearing the gauntlet because it's not like, you know, the fist makes contact with the opponent when he does it. So the fact that he literally won with a top rope Superman punch, I loved that. I thought that was so cool. And like, it's not just that he won with it. He fucking destroyed Matanza with that in the sense that he hit it and then he pandered a little bit to the crowd and then he went for the pin and still got the 3.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's so funny because ever since Matanza debuted, I was always afraid, because keep in mind, that coincided with Johnny Mundo's quest for the championship, which was like a multi-season long arc. And I always joked, like, I never want Matanza and Mundo to cross paths, you know, because I was always afraid for Johnny. And then, you know, they finally do, and Johnny lives, and I feel like I can finally exhale, like, whew. And he never did have to cross paths with no Muertes, so again, kayfabe-wise, whew. You know, just exhaling relief. Like, maybe he can live through the end of the Mundo, right? But yeah, this was a great match to me again. And obviously, I'm biased. I always admit to my bias. But I think this was the match of Ultima Lucha Cuatro. Like, Johnny's done it again. Like, this fucking dude. We talk about OGs and people that are really the foundation of Lucha Underground. Johnny's one of the last people, you know, standing, you know, in that regard, because Killshot's kind of been chopped off. Mill might be chopped off. We know Matanza is. Johnny, though, seemingly, and we'll get to that later, you know, not going anywhere, it seems, which is nice to think about. And, yeah, another great Ultima Lucha match in his cap. Like, this was awesome. And, again, not even so much in-ring, which I like because it was a complete contrast from his match with Puma last season. This was more of a story-driven match, but I bought into the story wholeheartedly. But I always like getting your perspective because, you know, I wear the rose-colored glasses of just being a Johnny Mundo mark to the nth degree. What did you think of this match?
You know, I definitely agree this was the match of the night. And that's not even because there were like amazing sequences like you see in New Japan or anything like that. It was purely from the story. Because the story of this match from the get out was great because immediately, you know, as long as Mundo has that gauntlet, he's going to own Matanza. And I think Matanza knew that as well. So he got rid of that and he made it his mission to prevent Mundo from getting it back. But in that same note, Mundo made it his mission to get it back. And that was the story of the match. And I loved it because like the initial, like he throws it out onto the steps and then plays like puppy guarding to try and prevent Mundo from getting to it. And then Mundo outsmarts him by going under the ring. And then like before Mundo can get it on his fist, Matanza throws it into the bleachers and then goes up and gets it and throws it up even higher up onto a roof. And then Mundo tries to do like parkour shit to get to it. And Matanza catches him and slams him. And then Mundo manages to still get it and get it on his hand. And then Matanza slams him through that roof. But then like they played Matanza's music like the match was over, but Johnny was still alive. And he comes out and he looks like a fucking beast. And he holds the hand up and he does like his intro pose. And then he just punches Matanza right through the chair that Matanza was holding and trying to use on Mundo. And that was a great moment. That was a great visual. And then he like does the like, you know, like the old Superman punch finish. It was so good, man. I absolutely loved it. And there was like a really cool sequence on the outside of the ring before the finish where Mundo was just trying to punch Matanza and just kept missing. And like he punched the ring post and was able to no-sell it because of the gauntlet. He like punched the mat, the ground, and he no-sold it because it didn't hurt because of the gauntlet. Like it was just really, really great storytelling. But then once he finally got in the ring, Matanza hit a Wrath of the Gods and Mundo kicked out of that. The first time anybody has ever kicked out of the Wrath of the Gods in the temple. Stryker had a great line on commentary. We said he said he's the Power Man and the Iron Fist all rolled into one. I loved that. And then punched Matanza right in the gut, and you heard it was like a clang because Matanza had this like big metallic looking ancient Aztec seal on his chest, and it was also on his headdress. And I showed you images, and I also posted them in the Discord of the image of that seal and the image of the 7th Aztec medallion in the Gift of the Gods title belt. And they look kind of similar. I mean, it's not like an exact replication. It's not like an exact copy, but they both have like the big round out eyes and the little tiny nose and the mustache and, you know, the wide mouth with the tongue coming out of it. It looks very, very similar as far as just the features go. Which surprised me because I thought that Mill was like the leader of that tribe, and it turns out it might have been Matanza. But like I said, Mundo punched him in like that seal. Like that was the first big punch that he connected with in the ring. And then he punched him right in the face, and then he did a Superman punch, and that actually knocked Matanza off his feet. And that was when Mundo went up to the top rope and hit the Superman punch off the top rope. And it was funny, too, because as he was going to the top rope for the second Superman punch, he flipped off Antonio Cueto. So, yeah, he did the big second Superman punch off the top rope and won the match with it. And then, yeah, it was like this huge moment because – and you know what? I also like that he didn't, like, go overboard. Like, he won the match and he celebrated, and that was just it. And Matanza was just laying there the whole time. But Mundo could have gone so much further. He could have sacrificed him to the gods, but he didn't.
Yeah, that's true. He did not. And dude, honestly, I'm glad you mentioned Mundo flipping off Antonio Cueto because when we really have our big discussion on the final few minutes, I want to come back to that. So just remember that you said that because, yeah, I do think that just that antagonism could cause, you know, deeper rifts and have deeper ramifications. But in the meantime, Mundo does survive. He doesn't get sacrificed to the gods because he is a god and he knows how to survive. I fucking loved it. Mundo fan forever, and he's still alive, so my fave's doing great. I guess we can move on to the next thing. What came after this?
After this, let's see. We had the backstage segment with Mundo and the Gauntlet, where Aerostar is like approaching him. He's just like, I think we're even now. Johnny's just like, you know, I think I'm going to hang on to this Gauntlet for a little while. And Aerostar tells him what it's really doing to him. Like, it's not making you stronger. It's basically killing you. And as soon as Aerostar mentions, like, if you keep that on, you're going to be nothing but a shell to a god, Johnny's just like, nobody inhabits this perfect body but me. And Aerostar's like, please, before it's too late. And Johnny takes it off and hands it over. And then Aerostar's just like, you're a good man, Johnny. And then Mundo's just like, no, I'm not. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go celebrate with my wife. Oh, God.
What a man. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't even wrong. Nobody inhabits that perfect body but him. You think a guy's just going to come in and take all those obliques for themselves? You didn't earn this, okay? Back the fuck off. So I'm very happy for Johnny for his willpower, which, again, you have to attain those abs, to take the gauntlet off and give it back to Aerostar. And this is also great for the Aerostar character because it's like, oh my God, judgment that actually went right for me this season. Hooray. So yeah, very surprising, cinematic, and I think it really does cement Johnny in the foreseeable future as a good guy in Lucha Underground, and it feels really earned. And I really like that. I really like that they've been able to make this transition, and I'm not grumbling about it because, you know, I've always had a preference for him as a heel, and I think I always will. But if we're going to get him as a babyface, like, this is the best I've ever seen it done. So kudos to Lucha Underground. This is a great cinematic. And so happy that Johnny gets to live as his perfect self because goddamn. All right, what came after this, brother?
Well, then we get to our fourth and final match of the night. Pentagon Dark versus Marty the Moth Martinez. Cero Miedo. And apparently the spot that busted Marty open so bad was a basic ass head first throw into the goddamn ring post. Like,
damn,
guys, really?
Wow, that's surprising. I really wasn't expecting that. You know, dude, honestly, I just got to be truthful. I was talking about it when we were playing Rocket League last night. I do think the first Cero Miedo was better than this. And I think you actually gave the perfect reasoning as to why. You know, the first one really had a lot of narrative weight behind it. And, you know, it told such a great story for Pentagon looking for a master, you know, this and that. And then here gets in his crosshairs. And then, of course, the big reveal, you know, I am your master. I just think it was a great payoff. Here, they tried to establish a story very early on, you know, because the first episode, remember, was Aztec Warfare. It came down to Marty and Pentagon breaking Marty's arm, you know, and then Marty, like, coming back because Mariposa kind of convinces him, look, you know, realize your true potential kind of thing, become Lucha Underground champion. And he does, first by, you know, beating Azteca to give to the gods. And then he does cash in on Pentagon Dark because that was the second payoff to Antonio to change the rules of the Gift of the Gods championship. And I loved it. You know, I thought he spoke with confidence. He carried himself so well. First title events against Mariposa with Reclusa by his side because Reclusa kicks fucking ass too. I also forgot to mention that's how he was able to beat Pentagon was in large part due to Reclusa. So it was great packaging, great delivery. Like, I was ready for it. And, you know, he challenged Pentagon to this match because it's your match and I want to beat you in your match. And, like, great table setting. And I just feel like this was a case where, like, the actual product didn't match the table setting that preceded it. I just felt like it was more of a hardcore match for the sake of being a hardcore match. And the hardcore match wasn't a vehicle to tell a grander story like the first Cero Miedo was. And I think that was my biggest disconnect with it. Marty bled a lot, and now that you told me what caused it, like, wow, that is surprising. But he owned it. He looked even more menacing with that crimson mask, you know, smiling about it and enjoying it. We did get the fork spot, you know, him stabbing Pentagon with a fork. We had Pentagon buried under a pile of chairs. Pentagon, you know, did his comeback, you know, because he's OP. And ultimately, fast forward a little bit, he does ultimately regain the championship after a fear factor through, you know, 6 chairs that were just kind of set up kind of next to each other, like in a line, you know, 2 rows of chairs, and gets the pin. I was dispirited, obviously, because I really wanted Marty to get legitimized by beating Pentagon in his own match. But I also have to remember when I distanced myself emotionally from this, the story was never really about Marty or about Pentagon. It was about something else entire, which we'll get to in a moment. But again, I don't want to jump the gun too much. I want to hand the reins over to you to give your full thoughts on Cero Miedo 2 here, Pentagon versus Marty the Moth. What did you think about this?
Yeah, man. This match was, I think, as far as comparing it to the first Cero Miedo match, this felt much more violence for violence sake, whereas the first one felt more violence for the sake of telling a story, you know?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Like with this one, it was like, oh, you know, what can we do to gross out the audience and make them go, oh, holy shit, wow, rather than actually trying to tell a story. Because, I mean, really and I think this really does come down to a Pentagon Dark problem, because we've complained about Pentagon Dark storytelling in matches multiple times now. I mean, you go back to his fucking match with Son of Havoc at last year's Ultima Lucha, and he has the match won and clearly easily finished. But rather than just going for the win, he sets up a ladder to do a weak ass Uranagi on Son of Havoc off of through a table because he just wants to get his shit in. And I know, like, Marty kind of has similar problems, just as far as, like, it seems like he's more focused on, like, the gross out kind of factor than the storytelling of the match, you know? Because, like, it's 2 guys whose goal isn't necessarily to tell a comprehensive story in the match. Like, Pentagon's goal is just to get his shit in and look cool. Marty's goal is to gross out the crowd and make them not want to see him, and you know, the old heel stuff.
Right.
Neither one of them had the goal of winning the match, you know? Like, neither one of them went into this match and told the story of, I'm willing to do what it takes to win the match. With Pentagon, it was, I'm willing to do what it takes to look cool and you know, kill my opponent. And Marty, it was just, I'm willing to do what it takes to basically pay my dues and get killed and still keep coming back, kind of thing.
Right.
Whereas in that first Cero Miedo match, Vampiro was trying to win the fucking match. Now, say what you will about Pentagon, because Pentagon was really just doing to Vampiro whatever he could to survive Vampiro, because Vampiro went into that match with a mission to punish and beat Pentagon. He introduced everything, I think. If I remember correctly, Pentagon didn't actually introduce anything in that match. It was all Vampiro. Vampiro introduced the thumbtacks. Vampiro introduced the glass shards. Vampiro introduced the light tubes. Vampiro introduced the flaming table. Vampiro started everything. Vampiro even pulled the mat up and wanted to slam Pentagon onto it. Pentagon reversed it. So Vampiro really did start and initiate everything. He was the ring general there. He led that match, and Pentagon needs that. And I love Marty as a character, but I don't necessarily think, at least based on this, that he is the type of ring general that Vampiro was in that first Cero Miedo match, because they basically had Pentagon lead this match and it wasn't good because of it.
Right. No, I think that's fair. I think all of that is fair. And I think Vampiro was able to be that ring general because he's been in the business for decades. You know, like he has that experience. You know, I hope one day that a Marty the Moth can get there. I still believe in Marty, you know, as a main event talent. I'm still disappointed that his reign's already over, because just a little bit we saw of it. I mean, me personally, I saw a lot of promise, but again, I had to see that the story really wasn't either about him or Pentagon. So ripping the Band-Aid off, Marty the Moth loses. Vampiro comes in, presents Pentagon with the title. And Ashton, I'm going to let you take it from here, because this is where shit really begins to pop off. From this point to the end of the episode, just it does not stop. So I'm going to let you kind of start us down here on what happens, because Vampiro's in the ring, and just take it away, partner.
Yeah. So Pentagon does pick up the win with a fear factor onto 3 pairs of inward-facing chairs and reclaims the Lucha Underground title. But he does not get to claim Marty the Moth's arm, because Reclusa attacks Pentagon when he tries to. Vampiro gets in the ring and kind of chases Reclusa off, and the believers are still very much into Pentagon, and they're still doing Cero Miedo and Cero Miedo and all that kind of stuff. Like, they're really into him. And it seems like Vampiro's in the ring to kind of present the Lucha Underground title to him, but he ends up turning Pentagon around and low blowing him. Pentagon low blows Vampiro in return. Then they kind of get into a little brawl. They do thigh kicks, and Vampiro goes to whip Pentagon into the turnbuckle, but he reverses. But then before Pentagon actually gets a chance to do anything, we get everything here cut short by the debut of a new fighter. A very small fighter. I actually looked him up. He's only 5'5". He's listed at 5'5", 155. And he does some crazy high-flying shit to Pentagon. Like, he made Vampiro hold Pentagon so that he could do a standing shooting star off the balcony onto him. Then he has Vamp put Pentagon back in the ring and does a corkscrew shooting star, like a red arrow, onto him. And I did a little bit of research, and it turns out that the guy under the mask is Australian Suicide, and the character's name is Hexagon Dark.
Yeah, fucking beast.
Yes.
Yeah, man. I guess we'll just take a pause here before we continue on with like what happened next, just to talk about this. Hexagon Dark is fucking awesome. I mean, 100% scumbag approved. The shooting star that he did on the Pentagon was sick. And then pretty much like the red arrow maneuver that he did, I actually did rewatch that while you were talking. Like I pulled something up. I thought it came off great. You know, first viewing, I was like, huh? But then watching it, I'm like, you know what? No, that looked really good. I'm excited about this guy being Hexagon Dark. Didn't you say that Australian Suicide's a younger talent? Like, did we?
Yeah, I think I saw that he was under 30. I saw that he was born in either 92 or 93, which would make him around like 25, 26 years old.
Oh, dude, that's fucking amazing. That's fucking.
But I also saw something that said that he was like, he debuted in like 03. So that would make him like 10 or 11 years old when he debuted. And that seems a little bit unrealistic, but you never fucking know, man. I don't even know. I guess we'll find out over time as more information comes out about him, because I'm seeing, like, I have Lucha Wiki pulled up and it says birth date, location, 1992 or 1993, Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, debut 2003. So apparently he debuted at 10 or 11 years old, which is fucking nuts. I mean, we've We've talked about people debuting at 13, 14, and that was fucking nuts. And now we're just taking it to another level. So, like, whatever.
I mean, dude, with wrestling culture, I'm expecting one performer. They're going to have a sit-down interview. So what was your first match? Well, you know, I came out of the womb, and the doctors immediately just threw me in the ring. I wasn't expecting a push that fast, but, you know, when you got the opportunity, you take it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just...
Really had to maximize my minutes there.
You really had to maximize it. I mean, the umbilical cord was still attached, but I wasn't going to let that stop me.
No, yeah. See, I used the umbilical cord like it was a bullwhip.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when a promoter tells you, you know, I mean, what was I going to do? Just take a hot dog? I was in the womb for 9 months. No way. I was getting paid. You know, so like, it's fucking ridiculous. But came off great. I love the look. And, oh, God, see, no, still can't jump the gun because, again, this is when the train really starts leaving the station. So he lays Pentagon out.
And then immediately we hear Jake Strong's music, and he comes out. That's a promo talking about how he can cash in whenever he wants to, and he is going to right now. He cashes in, the bell rings, he breaks Pentagon's ankle, Pentagon passes out, Rick Knox calls the match, Jake Strong, new Lucha Underground champion.
Yes. I will say in hindsight, given what we know, which we're almost imminently about to get into here, it's a lot more palatable to me that he's champion. It's a much easier pill to swallow. And, you know, I can get behind it a bit more. And I will say, too, kudos to Lucha Underground. I know we've got, you know, performers and stuff that listen to us. They know how much I love heels, or as you affectionately once said, one of my favorite lines, that I'm very pro-minority. And yet they've got a heel here that I am actively rooting against. I can't wait for Strong to lose the belt and for us to get a new Lucha Underground champion, and they're using that to their advantage. And I think it's smart. Hell, even the Temple, like, I feel like the Temple, and I think you even said this a few episodes back, so it's nothing new, but they definitely love, like, the soundbite. You know, the catchphrase is strong, 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 more than the performer, because when he made Pentagon pass out and take the title, crowd was chanting bullshit. So I'm hoping that the believers going into season 5 really turn on Jake and really, like, actively root against him the same way they did Matanza the entirety of his reign, which, I mean, they hated Matanza immediately. I feel like Jake Strong may have finally gotten in that pocket. Who knows? But, yeah, he's Lucha Underground champion. He won via pass out because Pentagon's so OP that even after all that, he can't even manage to have the mat 3 times. But pass out works just as well. So you know that Jake Strong and Pentagon is going to be a feud. You know that Hexagon Dark versus Pentagon Dark is going to be a feud. So Pentagon's going to be pretty busy, you know, in season 5. There's no doubt about what his future is. And Ashton, do you have any thoughts about this whatsoever before we really dive into this shit?
Oh man, I don't have anything else to say. So let's just fucking dive right in, man.
Okay, now here's how I wanted to handle it if it's agreeable to you, because I know how you are, and I know you said like you took notes. I would like your notes to kind of be our guide, so I get both your thoughts and just as coherent as possible, like what happened, because I'm going to want to go all over the place, but you'll keep us in order. So if you want to read directly from your notes, like what was going through your mind and what you observed, I'd be all for that. So
okay. So we've got cinematic time here, guys. First off, Cuerno met up with El Dragon Azteca Jr. and Aerostar and said the gauntlet is too dangerous and must go back into hiding. Dragon Azteca Jr. said the gods are already too strong, but if we strike now, it may give us the advantage we need. And Aerostar kind of concedes. He's like, all right, make it quick. And El Dragon Azteca Jr. says she plans to, because Black Lotus is back, baby. She shows up. She now knows that El Dragon Azteca didn't kill her parents, that Matanza did. So now she's going to finish the job she came here to do. And she literally ripped Matanza's heart out.
This was fucking amazing. I love that they got her back just to finish this up, because Lucha Underground understands that the really loyal and fervent wrestling fans of a wrestling promotion, they do not forget. It is amazing how a wrestling fan, because I know you and I both have these problems, could have really shitty memories in like other aspects of their lives. And when it comes to a wrestling product that they watch consistently, like you and I do with Lucha Underground, steel fucking trap. And they know this, and they tie up the loose ends, and I respect them immensely for that. The idea, because I'm guessing this is the very last time we see Black Lotus, because there's just no other narrative outside of this. Yeah. The idea that she came back just for that one scene to finish it, the catharsis that I felt watching this was amazing. So already, doing amazing, Lucha Underground. I mean, your quick thoughts before we keep progressing through the cinematic?
I love that they yeah, like you said, they brought back Black Lotus to make sure that they wrapped this up. It's really awesome. I've been a big fan of her as a performer, as a character since we first saw her. And it's nice that we really did kind of tie a nice little clean knot on this story, because this started with her wanting revenge on her parents' deaths. Dario Cueto convinced her that it was El Dragon Azteca. She killed him. And then she went after El Dragon Azteca Jr. because he was trying to prevent her from killing Matanza after she found out the truth. And then Pentagon fucked her over then. And like, it's just so much stuff. And now we finally get to this point, and she finally gets to get her revenge. She got her revenge here. She managed to kill Matanza, the man that killed her parents. And like, yeah, the loop completes itself.
Absolutely, man. I loved it. So let's move on. What happened next?
All right, up next, let's see. El Dragon Azteca Jr. says her parents can finally be at peace, and she tells him, so can your master. So again, kind of bringing it back to the original El Dragon Azteca. But then Jake Strong shows up. He beats down EDA Jr. and snaps his ankle, takes the gauntlet and pounds his chest with it. So now, first of all, I will say, this was like the first time that I was like, oh God, like he's actually kind of cool with Jake Strong, because of the way that he first thing he did was just kind of knock down El Dragon Azteca Jr., but then he like squared up, like he was going to get into a real fight. I thought that was cool. Like the way that he did that, the way that he looked when he was like squaring up and he was like, come on, let's do this. After just having won the Lucha Underground title, like there was just something really cool about that to me. I don't know. How about you? Did you notice?
Yeah, no, it came off well. It definitely came off well, because again, like looking at him more, like putting my prejudices against the performer themselves, Jake Hager aside, and looking at the character, it's like, yeah, that makes sense, and that's a really cool moment. And then when he gets Azteca down, and he puts on the ankle lock, and he breaks the ankle, and Azteca's just like, no, please, and crack. That's great. And then Strong gets in and says, it belongs to us, and then the whole voice change. Which I really love that they played with that. And then so the gauntlet's covered in Matanza's blood, and Strong does the whole slapping his chest with it, strong, and you can see like the God voice and the mortal voice kind of intermingling there. So no, it came off well. I thought this is probably actually Jake Strong's best moment of the season, personally. So good stuff.
So then we see Taya looking in the mirror, and Johnny shows up, and he's kind of confused as to why she wasn't in his corner like she said she would be, but he's also proud because he won by himself. And he's just like, I get it. You wanted me to prove that I could win by myself, and I did. But then she says, sorry, Johnny. And then she like grabs him by the throat and slams him up against the locker. I'm not your wife. And then she like slams him around the locker room as Rosa's giggle somehow was like coming out of her body. And yeah, like she slams him down and she says, I'm a god. And then her eyes glowed. They were like fiery and pink.
Yeah. Isn't this the first female god we've gotten in Lucha Underground?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So there you go. I felt so fucking bad for Johnny here. I'm like watching this. He's so happy. Like I beat him. Our problems are over. Why don't we take that honeymoon we've been talking about? Sorry, Johnny. What are you talking about? Pretty much him saying, what are you talking about? Was the equivalent of, how come my name's on this? And I'm just like, damn it. I don't want to be a party to this, but I was a party to it because we had to live react to it. And he got, God handled by his wife. Oh God. Oh, this feud. I mean, because see that, I'll be honest with you, dude. What I love about this story, and again, I am colored by my bias most immediately, but what I love about it is everything going on around this is like grand metaphysical, like the cosmos are at stake. What's going to be the benefit of this story? It's a very personal, intimate story, because Johnny's going to have to fight his wife while also trying to figure out, how do I save her while I fight her? Because like, I don't want to have to kill her, but that may be the only option on the table. I mean, this is Lucha Underground. They are not afraid to go places, that really kind of touch on those aspects. And if it gets really bad, because depending on how long the possession goes, and this may be a different kind of possession altogether, because this isn't like the gauntlet or what have you, but you know, the more of Taya that's actually in there is lost. And I would not be surprised if at all in season 5, just to kind of take a little detour and talk this out, if Johnny was faced with the choice, do I kill my wife to save the Mundo? And that to me could be potentially some heart-wrenching shit. If for no other person, me here. Because I could just be like, no, don't do it. You know, but I'm really looking forward when all of this chaos is going on, that this is still a very dark and grim story, but it is so on a very intimate level. I think that's actually going to be to its benefit with all the other worldly chaos going on. So yeah, I cannot wait for Mundo.
Worldly and otherworldly.
Yeah, you again. But yeah, I am loving what they've been giving Mundo pretty much the entirety of his Lucha Underground run, and it's always a concern, like, how do you keep up a person's momentum when they become world champion and then they lose it, so that they stay a relevant, integral part of the story? And I would say that Lucha Underground has absolutely done that with Johnny Mundo. Like, as a fan of his, first and foremost, this season didn't disappoint me. And that is one big, you know, thumbs up I can give in the direction of season 4. I enjoyed his arc. I enjoyed the match with Matanza. And now what they're doing next, we're finally getting that Taya and Johnny feud. And I commend them for going the extra mile by not succumbing to wrestling tropes 101, you know, like Fale or fellow competitor gets, you know, fed up with the heels bullshit. They actually went for something a bit more heart-wrenching. And I dig that a lot. So I think this will definitely be a bright spot for season 5, and I'm just heartbroken for Johnny, and I hope we can get Taya back without having to risk her life, which it very, very well may come to. So yeah, a lot of feels for this one. But that's all I wanted to say about that. Obviously, I had a good bit to say about that, given the stakes and everything and the people involved. We can move on.
Well, the next scene is the limo. So we get Agent Winter saying everything's coming together just as prophesized. The dissension is complete, and all of the gods have taken human form, and the Lucha Underground title is back in our control. And then Hexagon Dark says, now we destroy all 7 tribes, or as he said, now we destroy all 7 tribes.
Yeah. That voice is like, it's incomprehensible.
Yes.
I mean, it is pretty badass. So I'm kind of conflicted. I'm like, that's a really cool voice. I just wish I knew what it was saying to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, they're just all again. What was that?
I said, as you do.
Yeah. But then Jake Strong gets in the limo, bloody gauntlet and all, and the Lucha Underground Championship around his waist. And I think one of the first questions asked was, whose blood?
Yeah, Winter says, whose blood is that on your shirt? And who's, you know, it's on the gauntlet too. And he says it's Matanza's. And then the Lord says in Spanish, your son was a worthy host, and the order will never forget his sacrifice. Then he starts speaking in English, and oh wait, he has a British accent, and he says, but now we must find a new host, or a new host. Of course, you got to remember that part. And then Winter says, yes, my lord. And then he says, so anybody else have any bad news? And it's fucking Barrett. It's Stu Bennett. And then he says, well, I guess it's time to take over the world.
I don't even need to ask you any questions I was going to ask you based on how you just exclaimed there. That was amazing.
Oh my god! I wanted him in Lucha Underground for so long, dude.
And again, as I told you quite a few times, I think I even said it like offhandedly in live reactions, and I could say it more here. This was perfect casting for the Lord. Like
we need to go back, because I guarantee you one of us said something about how we wonder if they're going to use Stu Bennett as the Lord, if they're going to get him to do it. Like, I get like there's no way neither one of us ever mentioned that. There's no way.
I would hope not, because like we did want him in Lucha Underground for a long time. How giddy are you that you're going to be able to do Stu Bennett impressions again in Lucha Underground?
I just got the first one in. It makes me so happy.
You know, right? Like, you are not waiting. You're like, this is ripe for abuse. I love it, man. I love it. And really, the order is fucking legit. When you just look at like
terrifying.
Yeah, that too. God, so much to talk about. No, you know what? I want you because I want to go back to this, but I want to look at it as a comprehensive whole. So what happened after this limo meeting with Bennett saying take over the world, or the Lord, I should call him, the Lord, saying now we take over the world.
Well, we did a flashback to a year ago, and we saw at Dario Cueto's funeral, Antonio taking the key and then leaving, but then Aerostar shows up to give him the amulet and says, "Come with me." Again, very iconic words in Lucha Underground lore. And Dario says, "Aerostar?" And then he sits up and he goes, "What the fuck?" And then we cut to black, to be continued.
Okay, so now that we know that Dario's being revived, first thing I want to say, because I mentioned this to you in Rock League, and I said that was probably one of the best points I'd come in with the review, and I wanted to remember to make it again. The poetic irony of Captain Vasquez giving up her half of the amulet to revive the man, and she didn't know it, but to revive the man that her whole arc being the captain was incriminating Cueto and bringing him in. Like, I love that. I love that pretty much the woman that was trying to hunt Cueto down is the same one that ultimately gives Cueto a new lease on life. Literally. I thought that was a really nice touch. And now, with Dario, now I can talk about the big thing that's been on my mind and why I wanted to remember that Mundo flipped off Antonio. I think we're doing the big Civil War next season. We have to be, I would have to imagine, because Hexagon Dark has said, now we destroy all 7 tribes. Antonio's still around. Matanza's dead, which if Dario gets word of this, like, which I don't know, because Aerostar traveled back in time a year ago, does he bring Dario forward in time? How do they handle that? Leaving that all unaccounted for and just treating things as they are most immediately. Once he learns that Matanza's dead, he is going to be pissed, because even though the relationship was perverse, I mean, it's the fucking Cuetos. There is no such thing as a 100% healthy relationship. I do believe that Cueto genuinely loved Matanza, and Matanza loved him. So Dario learning about this, and it is funny the look on Antonio's face when he learned that Matanza died, because he did seem genuinely mournful as well. He didn't seem like blasé about it. But I feel like a battle line's going to be drawn, and I'm already going to say that once Johnny works out his stuff with Taya, if he's able to work him out in one season, which I would have to assume, of course, he will, however it ends, he's probably going to be on Dario's side. Because he's had a much better relationship with Dario, it seems like, than Antonio. And they have a lot more history. I'm just curious if, like, all Antonio's going to have on his side are just the Order, you know, Jake Strong, Hexagon, all that stuff. Or if other people are going to be like, you know what, no, I like Antonio. I want to live. You know, I want to be spared from the end of the world. So I really do believe, dude, that season 5 is going to be the big Civil War. And if it's not, for whatever reason, we'd have to be incredibly close to it after this shit. So now that we've gone through the whole cinematic, I mean, what are your thoughts for the future? What are you anticipating for season 5?
Oh man, I don't know. I really, like, I already kind of told you, I really hope that we start season 5 finding out what Dario was doing throughout season 4, because we have no clue, because we went an entire year of him unknowingly being alive somewhere working in the background. And like, now we don't know where he was. We don't know what he was doing. We don't know if Aerostar was in communication with him. We don't know anything. So I just want an update on that. I want to know what went down over the course of that year with Dario specifically. Like, was he like just kind of hiding in the background, waiting to do something, like waiting for everything to come? Like, I don't know, man. And here's the thing. It seems like the Order mistakenly, before Jake Strong got in the vehicle, thought that all of the gods had taken the form of humans, but we know for a fact now that at least 2 of them are not right now, because the Gauntlet's god isn't in a human and Matanza's dead. So that's 2 gods right there out of the picture for now.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. That is freaking huge.
Like right now we know about, I want to say 4 gods. I'm going to assume that the Lord is a god. So Stu Bennett's character. Hexagon Dark is definitely a god. Jake Strong is definitely a god. And now we know Taya has been inhabited by a god. So that's 4 gods out of, I want to assume 7, because there are 7 tribes. but we still like we know for a fact that one of them was in Matanza. We don't know what happened with that god, or if that god is just gone for good now. One of them is in the gauntlet, and that hasn't found a host yet, and we don't know where the seventh god is.
Yeah, dude. Here's the crazy thing, too, talking about the gods. Like, let's just stick with this a little bit. Because we know all the gods have kind of converged together for the Order. And the god that possessed Matanza, they said it's time to find a new host. So that's another thing, too. They're going to try and find a new vessel for Season 5 for the god that inhabited Matanza, which should be interesting. Like, who's going to be that spiritual successor? But also, and here's where it gets a bit interesting to me, they're aware of all of the gods, but they may not necessarily all be on the same page, because Rosa hasn't had any kind of contact with the Order. I mean, not even at the end, like Taya getting in the limo after she took care of Mundo, saying like, oh, this is going to be like, we just see her directly related to Mundo. She doesn't meet up with the Order at all now that she's got a human vessel or whatever. So I wonder if like there are some gods that just kind of want to do their own thing and don't really give a shit about the Order's plans, or like how that's all going to work out. Because it doesn't really seem like it's going to be all the gods of the Order on one side versus all the mortals trying to survive on the other side. Because Rosa, to me, is kind of a wild card. Like, I wonder what her relationship to this whole thing is, or if she has other motives altogether. So, I mean, what do you think about that?
Hold on 1 second. You can keep talking. I just need to finish right
now. No, okay. No, because I just was really thinking about Rosa was like the big thing to me, because you know, she inhabited a doll, which we have no idea how she came to inhabit that doll. And then she wanted to get close to a perfect human vessel, which she saw firsthand when Taya just obliterated Ricky at Ultima Lucha. And now that she's got Taya, you know, we saw the first thing she did as a human was manhandle Johnny, or as I jokingly said, God handle Johnny.
Yeah. So what was the question that you asked me when I was typing that message up?
Well, just essentially like, she never really met up with the Order. I don't know what her connection with the Order
you almost have to wonder if she is like an independent actor almost, like if she isn't really associated with the Order.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying, man, because like if she's not associated with the Order and she's more like chaotic evil rather than like, you know, this orderly, like we've got this plan, you know, whatever, and she just wants to do whatever she wants, that's interesting, because I could see it going multiple ways. Just off the top. What was that?
I didn't say anything. I heard just turned a weird like mic pop. It sounded like.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I could see it going multiple ways. I mean, just off the top of my head, I could see it going like, you know, she's a common enemy of both of us. So maybe the Order and the Lucha Underground Superstar, like they all put their differences aside and they try and take Rosa down. Johnny could just take her down like by himself, and maybe she tries to find a new host, and then she comes in contact with the Order. There are so many ways that they can handle this. But yeah, I just found it very interesting that the Order seems very, you know, concerned with the gods. And again, another big thing that we can't gloss over, because I know you were typing up something, so I just want to reiterate it. They did say, and I know you read it in your notes, that it was time to find a new host. Like Matanza Cueto's dead. The god that inhabited him needs a new vessel. So who's going to be the spiritual successor to Matanza? That's another big thing too. So Rosa's motivations, her intentions, you know, all that stuff, and in large part, her relationship to the Order, whether there is a relationship or not, as well as who's going to be the spiritual successor to Matanza. I think those are two big things we definitely have to keep an eye out for in Season 5. So I'm very much looking forward to both of those things coming to light, if they come to light next season. What about you, man? Where's your mind going in some directions with all this?
You know, I'm not sure where this is going. I'm much more kind of looking at the big picture. I'm looking at like, you know, just like I'm thinking more about this as like a game of chess, and I'm trying to figure out like who all is on the playing field, you know, because
right.
You like when Taya is inhabited by a god, but she's not really on anyone's side that we know of, for sure. And the only gods that we know for sure, like guaranteed we know, are on the side of the Order are Hexagon Dark and Jake Strong. Now, we could speculate that Stu Bennett's character, the Lord, is a god, but we haven't really gotten any kind of confirmation about that yet. So it's very, very much still up in the air. So what we know for sure is that the Order has two gods and the means to create a third in their possession. But now Dario Cueto is back and alive. and he has the immortality granting amulet, which is another huge thing. And Aerostar seems to think that he can be the one to save the world. So that, like, right there, boom, 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 big deal. And then, like, Taya is like this weird independent actor. She might be associated with the Order. She might not. We don't know. Johnny Mundo is going to try and stop her, or at the very least get the god out of her to try and save her life, obviously. And I don't really know if there's anything else that we can really even speculate on as far as like the grand scheme of things goes, because everyone else in the temple is relatively ignorant of the overarching kind of story that's being told here. They're all just kind of there to fight. So really, those are the major players that we know about. And I would say like El Dragon, Azteca Jr., Aerostar, and King Cuerno are obviously somehow trying to save the world, but we don't know what their intentions are.
Yeah, that's very true. There's so much we're in the dark about, but I mean that's why I like it. I feel like they gave us just enough. I really didn't feel unsatisfied with anything here. I feel like all my questions were answered again. The Black Lotus callback was great. Matanza got a very fitting send-off as a character. Jake Strong, like I said, knowing that Stu Bennett is the Lord, makes Jake Strong's presence in this whole thing far more bearable, far more, to know that he answers to somebody that I genuinely like on all counts. And yeah, I mean, Johnny's story on a personal level, obviously I'm invested in that. Aerostar, he continues to be this big agent for good, trying to work things, behind the scenes and, outside of time and all that. So Aerostar's stock as a character continues to climb because his narrative importance just continues to increase. Dario is back. Everybody was missing him. Absence made the heart grow fonder. And I feel like we were all just so excited to see Dario again. So yeah, man, I think this hit upon everything. I fucking love this. And what a conclusion to season 4. Cannot wait for season 5. Just awesome. So I got nothing else to say, man. If you don't, we can move on to our next segment.
We've literally had a guy, Kevin Richardson, has posted 2 messages in chat this entire time, and they were both the exact same thing. He literally just said Lucha Underground season 5, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's to hoping it happens. Did you want to talk about it all? The article DBK sent us, by the way, because like
I'm not worried about it, man. I'm not even trying to dwell on that shit because I'm not buying it because it came from fucking Meltzer, and like that's Meltzer. That's what he does. He is the ultimate doomsday reporter as far as Lucha Underground, and I don't buy anything that he says about Lucha Underground for even a split second. And even like fucking Ryan Satin is trying to get in on it now. Like he's talking about, oh, this episode feels like it'll end up being a series finale as opposed to a season finale. But like he's basing that on an article put up by Pro Wrestling Sheet that literally had a quote in it from Eric Van Wagenen saying, I don't think the show is going away. So like, no, they can all fuck off. They're all just, again, like the doomsday naysayer bullshit.
And I don't know why they're like so drawn to that. Like, why not just get on the product or even just claim ignorance? Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like I know you and I do, and we really just genuinely don't know. Why always go for the doomsday route? It's fucking annoying as shit.
I know, but it's really annoying though. I know that.
But regardless, I'm confident in a season 5, especially after that ending. How you can extrapolate anything other than the show's continuing just based off of the ending, I don't even know. But great final few minutes. Before we get into our final segment, just want to go through my plugs very quickly, guys. If you're new to the podcast and new to Lucha Underground, first of all, you picked a great time to get into it because season 4 just ended, so you have all the time in the world to catch up. And the best way to do that.
Heard, by the way, but I mean, I appreciate the plugs and stuff, but I do want to say, I've actually heard that season 5 is going to wrap up pretty much any threads, any stories that were started in season 1. So even though season 5 isn't necessarily meant to be the end of the series, EVW apparently did say on the Masks, Mats, and Mayhem show that he wants season 5 to wrap up stories that were started in season 1. And that might have even been Chris Roach that said that, not EVW. But so, yeah, like the speculation now is that season 5 is going to wrap up stuff that was started in season 1. And we might get like a fresh start in season 6, assuming that happens, which again, as up in the air as it is, I'm not even going to start assuming that's going to happen. I'm still hoping season 5 happens.
No, with Lucha Underground, you have to live in the present. And I'd have a lot to say about that, but there's no point in saying it unless we have like, you know, substantive stuff to back it up. So I'm not even going to touch it, but just continuing my plugs. But I do appreciate you saying that because that is very interesting. You picked a great time to start, guys, because season just ended, so you have a little bit of time to catch up. And the best way to do that is our All Lucha Underground Content Ever playlist. Every review, every live reaction, every analysis, it's all right there in the playlist. Go and watch it at your leisure to catch up on all the feuds, the lore, the characters, everything, and just the best Lucha Underground opinions on the web coming from Team TWitWoW here. Check it out. Follow Ashton and myself on Twitter. Ashton's pinned tweet is the TWitWoW schedule for the month of November. All of the recordings that we're doing, any recordings that get added, any recordings that get redacted for the month of November. It is all right there. So be sure to keep your finger on the pulse of what TWitWoW is doing through Ashton's pinned tweet. Be sure to follow him. My pinned tweet, on the other hand, is to collect Q&A questions. Q&A is the last Thursday of every month. That falls on the 29th this month. Now, Q&A has changed. For non-Patreon donors, you get 3 Q&A questions. For people that donate to the Patreon, you get up to 5 Q&A questions. So bear that in mind when you're replying to the pinned tweet with your questions. You can also submit your questions via YouTube. You know, when this video is done processing, if you want to tag a question on it, already said Twitter. Facebook, visit our Facebook page, like it. You can inbox us with your questions. And Discord, which, you know, I'll get to the Discord in just a second. Teespring store. We have everything from Scum Squad merch, t-shirts and mugs, TWitWoW specific shirts. I'm a TWitWoW guy. I'm a TWitWoW girl. Wrestler specific merch. Everything from Kevin Owens to Braun Strowman to Emma. It's all there in the Teespring. Check it out and see what fits you today. And finally, guys, the Patreon. Now, we've changed up the Patreon a little bit. I think it's a change for the better, personally. So let me break it down for you guys. This month, we hit $87. Our goal is still $120. Here's what happens when you hit the $120 goal. Pretty much, if you hit $120, we live react to 3 hours of wrestling content every week for the month. So it'll be up to our patrons to choose which shows we react to, but this does open up our options. So to give you an example of what we did on week 1 here with this, because it was only over 80 and not 120, that only meant 2 hours of wrestling content as opposed to 3. What Ashton did was he went into the Discord and he gave like a few options, the content we could react to. You know, we could react to 2 hours of NXT UK and Screw 205 Live. We could do 1 of NXT UK and 1 205 Live, just a myriad of options. Our patrons chose the two back-to-back episodes of NXT UK. We live reacted to both. You can see them on the channel. But if 2 hours of wrestling content every week, live reactions that is, isn't enough for you guys, and you're like, I want more TWitWoW in my bloodstream, more, then the best way you can help us reach the $120 goal so that you get those full 3 hours is by donating $3 and getting membership with the TWitWoW Discord, what I call the Ultimate Fan Server Experience. There you will see Ashton and myself and the most passionate TWitWoW fans talking about everything just under the sun from wrestling and beyond. If you can think of it, we've probably talked about it. And I think it's a great experience too, because with the $3, not only do you get access to a great fan server, you help Team TWitWoW with our broader goals for the channel, but you also get a bit of a stake in Team TWitWoW yourself, because every patron gets what I'd like to call like a TWitWoW account. And the more money that accrues in that account, the more your options broaden. I give a very straightforward formula. If you stayed in the Discord 10 months, $3 a month comes out to $30. You can cash that in immediately for a live reaction to a 3-hour show. Other patrons choose to just let that money accrue and accrue until it gets to a nice amount where you could do quite a bit with it. You know, the power is yours. But it all begins with a straightforward $3 donation. If you can donate to the Patreon, guys, we would greatly appreciate it. All right. With that said, we can get to the final segment, high spots and low shots. I'm going to be very straightforward. My low shot is El Dragon Azteca Jr. because, man, did he get bitched out. What a rough.
You know what, though? I mean, yeah, he got bitched out by Phoenix, but he still had like a triumphant moment to close the show.
I mean, did he, though? Because, I mean, he did the one thing.
Yeah, because he got his ankle snapped. But, like, retribution for his mentor, I think, is still cool.
It is still cool, but I'm still giving him the low shot because he lost the match. But then, again, like you said, Ashton, to me earlier, you like to think big picture, and I am too. He might have gotten retribution for his mentor most immediately, but he lost the gauntlet. When everybody told him, make it quick, you know, we can't chance this, he made the argument to take Matanza out. And while it worked, the broader consequences are not in his favor or in the favor of the merry little band of troops fighting this thing, again, which includes Aerostar and King Cuerno. So Azteca is making all kinds of horrible decisions this season, and that did not stop at the finale. I'm giving him my low shot because a few victories here and there doesn't mean he didn't get dismantled in the war. So he's my low shot. Who's your low shot?
My low shot really, at the end of the day, who had a worse night than Matanza Cueto? Not only was he intimidated for the first time, his finisher was kicked out for the first time. He lost a singles match for the first time in a while. I know he lost one to Pentagon, but and by the way, by the end of the show, he had his literal heart ripped out. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Matanza for my low shot.
That death was amazing. I mean, Cisco will always have the funniest death in the temple without question. But Matanza's death, man, that was a death fitting for a god to me. So really well done. High spot. God, so many ways I could go with this. So many ways. I'm actually, you know what? I'm going to be, fun with this. I'm going to say my high spot is Mack. Mack survived death. He ended Mills.
Great choice, yes.
Yeah, he ended Mills' Ultima Lucha streak. Did he have the greatest night out of everybody? I think that would be a bit of a stretch. But did he have a great night as a competitor at Ultima Lucha? Yeah, he did.
I mean, who else would we be able to say had a better night?
Yeah, really. I mean, you could make, I guess, some arguments, but then when you really kind of go deeper into it, it's like, oh no, because now they got this shit to deal with. Mack was
we can't even give it to Mundo because now his fucking wife is possessed.
Exactly. Like Mack was able to get his win and get the fuck out. Like, so honestly, in that respect,
Mack had the cleanest good night.
He did. He really did. He was just able to enjoy some Mack Delos and be like, man, I ain't dealing with this shit. Ain't my problem.
Right?
So Mack's my high spot.
Yeah. That's like the cleanest choice for sure. But I think I have to go, and I think this is like the second or third time in a row that this guy's getting my high spot, unfortunately. But I gotta go with Jake Strong, man. I can't believe I keep doing it. But at the end of the day, he walked out of that temple with the Lucha Underground Championship, officially recognized as the Lucha Underground Champion, and with the Gauntlet of the Gods. So, like, who could have possibly had a better night? Like, he won the Lucha Underground Championship, didn't break a sweat, broke Azteca Jr.'s ankle, got the Gauntlet of the Gods, and kind of broke the news to the order, like, oh yeah, Matanza's dead. Like, he really did have a hell of a night.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And for so little work, too.
So I guess you could say in this segment, he's looking very strong.
Strong. Yeah, like, he works smarter, not harder.
Hey, what a heel. God.
Right? Yeah.
Damn. So yeah, man, that's it. And I know I haven't been asking this lately because I'm trying to break the habit because you always say no, but I do think this is a special occasion. Do you have any concluding remarks about this finale? Because if there was ever anything to have a little bit more to say, it would be a show like this. So I want to give you the floor one final time if there's anything else you want to air out.
I'm really, really hoping that some of the people that died this season aren't dead permanently and they get brought back in season 5, because I really don't want Vibora to be gone permanently, and I really don't want Mill to be gone permanently, and Katrina to be gone. But there are a few names that are gone that I get that they won't want to come back. Like Jack Evans, I know doesn't want to come back and shit like that, and we're probably never going to see Joey Wrestling or Mr. Spectacular again. But specifically those three, Vibora, Mill, and Katrina, I really don't want to see them be gone for good, because Vibora was just barely starting to scrape the surface, and he didn't leave because he wanted to leave. He left because he got injured. Like, please let him be able to come back. And Mill and Katrina, I just really hope that entire act isn't just done in Lucha Underground, because they were like a big part of the core of the draw of getting people to want to watch Lucha Underground, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, man. No umbrage taken with your points from me. I really would hate to see them go. Hell, it was hard enough saying goodbye to Killshot. To think that we could say goodbye permanently to all of those guys, I don't know if my heart could take it. And honestly, it just makes me grateful that Mundo does seem to be sticking around, because if we lost him, that would just devastate me too. And this was already hard enough, because I've said time and again, I love that locker room. I think it's one of the hardest working locker rooms in the business. from the writers to the performers, everything. And, you know, obviously you want everybody to have productive lives and to pursue their dreams. And if all the people that have left, you know, are doing that, you know, I can't hold that against them. But the selfish fan in me just doesn't want to part with these characters. I want to keep seeing them have stories. I want to keep seeing them grow. And if there's any sense of finality, I want it to be, you know, narratively, like them facing these gods together, facing the end of the world together, you know, whatever. I just feel like there's so much more to do with a lot of them, like especially Katrina with like the whole Phoenix thing. Like I feel like that romance was never really got its chance, you know? So like there's a lot that I'm still wanting as a fan. But this was a great finale. And if it is goodbye to these characters, then I do want to say, because I really haven't said it throughout all this, just thank them for everything they did for Lucha Underground. Yeah. You know, because everybody plays a part. And even if you can't stick around forever, you know, like, because Puma really put it on the map. Katrina was like an amazing character. Like, thank you to all those people that gave their time, you know, gave their well-being, worked on themselves, you know, mic-wise or otherwise, to really deliver the best performances possible to make this what it is. I wish them well, genuinely, you know, not like that, oh, future endeavors kind of thing. No, I think they were a part of really something incredible. And I hope that that really kind of bolsters their visibility, and other promotions and entities see how good they are and they take chances on them. And I just don't want to let them go. But if they're already out the door, thank you. And I just hope that season 5 can keep up the momentum that they got the ball rolling with. So, yeah. Jesus, that was more emotional than I intended it to be. Okay. That was Lucha Underground. This is TWitWoW, the best.
Woo!
Woo, daddy. Wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my court and commentary Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment on this video when it's done processing. Talk about it. Just like forget these systematized questions. Just like let it loose. What did you think about this? What did you think about those final few minutes? What was your favorite match on the Ultima Lucha card? Obviously, I think I could say for both Ashton and myself, like we thought that Sacrifice of the Gods, Mundo versus Matanza was match of the night. You guys might disagree. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear what your match of the night was and why. What are your hopes for season 5? I'll tell you what. I'll put it like this. What are 3 things that you either want to see answered or just happened in terms of like matches or feuds or whatever in season 5? In fact, I'll even up that to 5 things. You know, season 5, 5 things you either want addressed or just matches you want to see happen or whatever in season 5. What are your 5 aspirations for season 5? Talk to us, talk to us, talk to us. Be sure to like the video. The more likes you leave, the more likely we are to be the top search result for Lucha Underground reviews on YouTube. And when you're the best at what you do, the top is the only place that you belong. So please leave that like. Subscribe to your new favorite wrestling podcast if you haven't. And the #1 authority on all things Lucha Underground, I will die on that hill. And click the bell icon for notifications so you never again miss any of that TWitWoW goodness. I mean, guys, if you're here for Lucha Underground, I don't know, actually, if you'd want to hammer this out now or just privately between you and I, we can announce it later. But I know Rewatch can't be that far behind. We do it for every season. So if you're here solely for Lucha Underground, be on the lookout for that in the future. But if you're
probably start covering that in like a month, like in December, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I would. That sounds about right to me. I figured you'd say that. So, guys, keep an ear out for that news if you're here solely for the Lucha Underground content. But for everybody else that's here for all the TWitWoW content, because you just love our sexy voices and who can blame you, we will see you again on Tuesday for SmackDown live reactions as we're on the road to Survivor Series. And that'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern time, of course. So until then, guys, tune in and peace out.